Jasper, your butt is in my personal bubble again. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Boston and today we are talking about the books that I have read that now have certain memories attached to them. I do want to make a quick note before we get started that this video is inspired by Joella Reads, who did a video very similar to this on her channel, so go check her out. I will try to remember to link her below. She is one of my new favorite booktubers, but yeah, she's amazing. Go check her out. But yeah, without any further ado, let's just get into it. So the first book that I have here is one of the first books that I remember having a memory associated with it, and I didn't realize I had this memory associated with it until I reread it, and that is Carrie by Stephen King. This has very weird memory attached to it. This was either the first or one of the first Stephen King books that I read, and I read it at my sister's gymnastics meet. But I remember what the inside of the gym looked like and the cold, hard benches with no backs that we were sitting on for 6 hours. And I'm pretty sure I demolished like this whole thing during that time. But I didn't know that I had this memory until I reread it and I found myself going back to that time and remembering the feel like the sounds of the gym and the just pain of having to sit on bleachers for 6 hours. It's not exactly a great memory because I hated going to my sister's gymnastics meets, but it is a memory and it's kind of funny to look back on. And you know, when I was reading that then, I didn't think that that would be attached to this book forever, but it is. And the next book I have to talk about is Stephen King's son, Joe Hill, and that's Nosferatu. This I read in preparation for BookCon, and the reason I did this is because Joe Hill was doing a signing and a couple panels, and I actually missed the signing. Something went wrong with my ticket or something and I couldn't get it signed, but when I went to his panels, there was like a 15-minute break in between and people started going up to get their stuff signed and give him things and stuff like that. And I, on shaky legs, went up and asked him to sign my copy. And I did get it signed. It is right there, if you can see that. There you go. And that is one memory attached to this, but also when I think of this, I just remember really trying to read it quite quickly. It's a big book. It's 650 pages long. And I tried reading this in like 3 days before BookCon because when I ordered it, the package, something went wrong with it, of course, and it got here late, so I didn't have time to really like sit down and, you know, space it out. I had to read it over the course of 3 days. And I wanted to finish it before going to see him so that I could, you know, properly engage with what he was saying. And yeah, next up I have The Priory of the Orange Tree, and this is kind of a small memory for me, but this was the first book that I picked up after moving into my old house where I am now. When I first got the book, I remember I was here, I was unpacking, and not unpacking, but I was bringing stuff over that would need to come over eventually. I was just kind of like getting a head start and hanging out, and I was sitting at my desk, actually, which was in this corner here, and I remember looking out the window and seeing the mailman come up, and this is when I realized that I got my mail at 10 a.m. here in this house versus 4 o'clock in the afternoon at my old house, which I was excited about that. But I remember opening this and being like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful, I love her, she's so big. And I got really excited and I took some pictures, and yeah, it was just a really good memory. And then this ended up being the first one I read when I got home from my trip to Wisconsin, which is a great segue into the next book, which is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was a great book overall, but My memory that I have attached to this is when I went to Wisconsin with my boyfriend to meet his sister and her family and his grandma and grandpa, and that was a really fun trip. It was a really long trip, and on the way we stopped at a Barnes & Noble, and I didn't go into the store with intentions to buy this. I had seen it on Instagram. I didn't even know what it was about, I don't think, but I think I remember on the car ride there, I saw a picture of it, and maybe I looked more into it or something, but I remember seeing it at the bookstore, and I just knew I had to get it, and I ended up reading it over the course of like the 3-4 days that we were there, and I read it in the car. By the way, this dust jacket is like glossy on the inside. It's not matte, so you can kind of see. So it slides really easily, which was not easy to read in the car because I didn't want to lose the dust jacket or rip it or anything. So I actually read the book with the dust jacket on. I know, crazy of me, but yeah, that's the memory that I have attached to this one, and every time I look at it or think about it, I think of that, which is pretty cool. I also think of how good it was. It was just amazing, and I'm glad I have such a good book to attach to a really great memory. And the next 3 are the most recent ones that have had memories attached to them. The first, or not the first one, but the next one is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. This was my second book of the month from Book of the Month YA when I first became a rep for them, an affiliate, and I was so excited for this one because I think I really, really wanted to read it, and I remember seeing it in like the preview that we got of what books would be coming out the next month, like what books they would be featuring the next month, and I knew I had to get it, and I was so excited. I ended up really liking it, but when I got it, it was the day before I left for Universal, which if you haven't seen my vlog for that, I did go down to Universal. I went to Harry Potter World, and I had the time of my life. And I read this in the airport while we were waiting, I remember, and I read for a couple nights while we were there. If, you know, it had started raining and we left the park early, something like that. But yeah, every time I look at this, I think of reading it in the airport mostly, and sitting in the bed in the Airbnb and reading and just having a good time. That warm Florida air and the AC of the house, and yeah, just a great time overall. And the last 2 are from the same trip actually, but we will talk about this one first because the second one has a long and annoying story attached to it. But the next one is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is the UK edition. I got this from a Waterstones in Amsterdam when I went to Amsterdam. If you'd like to see that vlog, I also have a vlog for that up on my channel as well. But this, every time I see this, or even when I was reading it, even the smell of it, it smells like the Waterstones, and when I look at it, I think of the smell of Amsterdam, which that probably makes no sense. How can a whole city have a completely different smell? But it just does. It just does. And I think of the stroopwafels that I was eating in bed in our hotel room while I was reading. I think I read like a chapter every night of it while I was there, and I remember one night no, it was me. I hadn't finished, I had this huge stroopwafel that I got and I didn't finish it, and I was sitting in bed and I was just eating it and, you know, reading, and it was a great time. I'm sure some of these pages smell like stroopwafel if I'm being honest, but yeah, I think of just the general vibe of Amsterdam and that Waterstones, and yeah, it was just a great time. Every time I flip the pages and I smell it, I just smell Amsterdam. Oh, I love that. I love that. It makes me so happy. And finally, we have the ugly duckling of the group. Which that doesn't say anything about the contents or the cover, because this is probably one of the prettiest covers I own. But this is The Never Tilting World by Rin Chapecco. This was the book I chose to bring with me to Amsterdam and back to read in the airport, which I did a lot more of than I planned on. On our way back from Amsterdam, we got to the Denver airport and we needed to get to the Buffalo airport. It was a 30-minute plane ride. 30 minutes, 38 to be exact. Just so happens the day we got back was one of the first snowstorms of the winter season, and I wouldn't even call it really a snowstorm. Like, roads were fairly bad, but we got a few inches, and the first snow of the season is always rough, even though I live, you know, up north. But our flight was delayed probably 3 different times after we had already been in the airport for 6 hours. Just hanging out and like Skyping people and hanging out on our phones. And we finally board the plane after like 3 delays. We got on the plane. I fell asleep on the plane and I woke up and we still hadn't gone anywhere. It had been an hour. We still hadn't gone anywhere. The pilot comes out and says that if he were, that the wings still had to defrost, and if he waited until they defrosted, he would have gone over his allotted time he's allowed to fly in a day. So we had to get off the plane. We spent the night in the airport. My cousin's husband drove to pick us up in Denver. A 7-hour car ride in a snowstorm. God bless him. He picked us up. It was probably around 7 in the morning, and this was when we realized our luggage was on the way to Buffalo. We got into quite a few arguments with the woman at the like customer service desk because they hadn't put them on the plane yet, but we were like, can we get them? And she said that they were too busy to find them and give them to us. So then we had to drive to Buffalo to pick up our luggage, which thank God got there the same time we did, and then we went home. But yeah, the main memory I have associated with this was when I was reading it, trying to calm myself down while we were sitting outside of customer service waiting for my cousin's husband to pick us up. It was like 7 in the morning. None of us had slept in like 48 hours because even though we slept in the airport, we were sleeping in like literal chairs. Like, not chairs that had footrests or anything, just chairs with no blankets. It was freezing cold. So I don't have a great memory attached to this. It's kind of funny looking back now, but when I think of this, I think of that dreadful night, that dreadful 24 hours coming home. And we did make it home safely. Granted, 5 minutes away from home, my cousin almost got ran off the road and we almost died, but we made it, thank God. That's that one. I ended up really liking the Never Tilting World, which is besides the point. So thank God it was at least good. If it wasn't, I probably would still keep it around just because that memory is just so funny. Even though it wasn't at the time, I just wanted to cry for hours. I was so tired, I just wanted to lay in bed. But yeah, that is going to be it for this video. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.